This one man tricked Hitler so completely he got a medal from both sides. He was the worst spy in history because his entire network was a complete lie. I am revealing how his greatest deception changed the course of the entire war. You must stick around to the end to discover the one tiny mistake that almost exposed his entire operation. The radios crackled that morning, faint and uncertain, as if even the machines hesitated to speak. Dawn crept across the beaches of Normandy, and with it came the sound of thunder, not from the sky, but from the sea. Steel doors slammed open on landing crafts, men shouted over waves and explosions, and the world held its breath as history unfolded. Yet far from the chaos, deep inside Hitler's command center, silence reigned. His officers waited for reports that never came. His maps glowed under lamplight, marked with wrong pins and wrong assumptions. The great invasion had begun, and the Nazis were looking in the wrong direction. While the beaches of Normandy bled, Hitler was certain the real fight would come at Calais. His generals stood over their maps, convinced the Allies were merely staging a diversion. Every instinct, every calculation told them the same thing, and all of it was wrong. The greatest war machine in history had been outwitted by one man sitting in a London flat, typing lies with perfect sincerity. His name was Juan Puyol Garcia. To the Germans, he was their most trusted agent codename Alaric. To the British, he was their secret weapon codename Garbo, after the actress Greta Garbo for his unmatched ability to act. But before he became the most extraordinary double agent of World War II, he was simply a disillusioned dreamer in Spain, a man who hated war more than he feared it. He was born in Barcelona, raised in a world already dividing itself. Spain was bleeding from within, torn between Republicans and nationalists, between ideologies that promised freedom but delivered chains. Puyol was neither. He watched both sides destroy each other in the name of righteousness. When his family's chicken farm was seized, when his mother and sister were taken hostage by opposing forces, when he himself was forced to fight in a war he despised, something in him broke, but not into bitterness. It hardened into purpose. He saw what blind loyalty could do to a nation. So when Europe caught fire again under the shadow of the swastika, he swore he would dedicate his life to fighting lies with greater lies. He had no training, no weapon, no spy network, only imagination and a belief that one man could outthink empires. He first went to the British embassy in Madrid. "I want to serve your country," he told them. "I want to help stop Hitler." The officials smiled politely but dismissed him. Britain's intelligence community was full of veterans, analysts, and code breakers, not unknown farmers with grand ideas. They had no use for him. But Juan did not retreat. Rejection only sharpened his resolve. If Britain wouldn't let him serve truth, he would serve lies. He turned to the German embassy next, presenting himself as a devoted fascist sympathizer who wanted to spy on the British. The timing was perfect. The Nazis were desperate for information from inside England and lacked a solid network there. They believed their prayers had been answered in the form of this passionate Spaniard. They gave him invisible ink, money, and a code book and ordered him to move to London and begin his mission. But instead of London, Puyol went to Lisbon. There, equipped with a tourist guide, a British map from the library, and boundless creativity, he began the grandest fiction the world had ever seen. He started sending reports filled with believable detailed troop movements, naval deployments, even mundane gossip about British life. He wrote of foggy mornings in London, of soldiers on trains, of meals eaten in small cafes. He invented an entire world from memory and maps, and the Germans swallowed it whole. Yet he knew that to be believed, he had to sound human, imperfect, fallible, real. So he began constructing a network of sub-agents, each with a name, a face, and a story. A Swiss-German businessman in Liverpool, a Venezuelan student in Glasgow, a Portuguese dockworker in Wales, a pilot who smuggled letters from London, all figments of his imagination. He gave them families, temperaments, and quirks. He mentioned when they fell ill, when they argued with their wives, when they missed deadlines, and every false report came with just enough trivial detail to sound true small talk about the weather, a complaint about food shortages, a personal aside about loneliness. Each letter grew longer, more detailed, and more convincing. His network seemed alive. The Germans began sending him monthly payments to fund these agents, the equivalent of tens of thousands of dollars. And then came the accident that made his legend. In one letter, he described a convoy of ships leaving Liverpool for Malta. Unknown to him, a British fleet really had left Liverpool around that time. When his report reached Berlin, the Nazis believed their new agent had proven himself. They hailed his accuracy. But before it reached them, the letter was intercepted by British intelligence. At first, MI5 panicked. Someone was leaking information, but as they read deeper, something felt off. The spy's language was slightly wrong, too formal, too continental. Then one line sealed his fate. A liter of wine was delivered in Glasgow. The British didn't use liters. Whoever wrote this was no native. It was only after investigating that MI5 realized something incredible. This so-called Nazi agent wasn't harming Britain. He was helping them, confusing the enemy with a storm of false leads. And it was working. So instead of arresting him, they recruited him. In April 1942, Juan Puyol Garcia arrived in London and became a real spy this time for the Allies. They gave him a new code name, Garbo, for his masterful acting. Under MI5 supervision, Garbo's imaginary network expanded to 27 agents. He wrote letters for all of them, each in a distinct tone. One was analytical, another emotional, another impatient. His files became living literature. Through him, the British intelligence machine turned misinformation into a weapon. When the Allies prepared to invade North Africa, Garbo began hinting in his reports that the true target was Norway. He wrote of Canadian troops training in the Scottish Highlands, of ski exercises, of Russian soldiers moving west. He never mentioned Norway outright. He didn't have to. His subtle lies did the work. Hitler, ever fearful of a northern front, shifted his focus. German divisions fortified the Norwegian coast while the Allies landed in Africa with minimal resistance. Garbo's prestige soared in Berlin. They considered him one of their greatest spies. But to deepen their trust, he played a long game. He sent a detailed report about the North Africa invasion, the exact date, location, and plan. But he posted it late on purpose. When the Germans received it, the invasion was already underway. The details were accurate, the timing perfect, but useless. And yet, instead of punishment, he received praise. Magnificent report, they said. It's a shame it arrived too late. That single act made him untouchable. From that moment, Hitler's intelligence officers believed every word Garbo sent. The money poured in over $100, zero each month, meant to fund his 27 agents. Britain quietly used it to bankroll counterintelligence operations. Now, Garbo prepared for his ultimate test, the deception of D-Day. The invasion of Normandy would be the largest amphibious operation in human history. Millions of soldiers, tens of thousands of ships, and the fate of the world hanging in the balance. For the Allies to succeed, the Germans had to be looking elsewhere. So Garbo began painting a masterpiece of lies. He spoke of endless military activity in southeast England, of camps buzzing with American soldiers, of tanks and trucks filling the roads to Dover. He wrote that General George S. Patton, one of America's most aggressive commanders, had arrived to lead a massive new army. That army, he said, would invade France, not through Normandy, but through Calais, the shortest crossing. To make the lie believable, the British turned fiction into fact. They built dummy airfields with inflatable planes, fake oil depots, wooden battleships, and paper tanks. Photographs of King George visiting these bases were printed in newspapers. From the sky, it all looked real. German reconnaissance confirmed everything Garbo had described. His web of deceit reached even Hitler himself. Whenever Garbo reported troop movements, the German high command moved their pins accordingly. The Fuhrer believed that Calais, not Normandy, was the true target. He shifted divisions north, away from the real invasion zone. Then came the night before D-Day. On June 5, 1944, Garbo sent an urgent message. He told his German handlers to stay awake past their usual sign-off at 11:30 p.m. because vital news was coming from one of his agents. At 3 a.m., his message arrived. Soldiers had been issued rations and vomit bags. The invasion, he warned, was imminent, but no one was listening. The German operators had gone to sleep. 3 hours later, the Allies stormed Normandy. By dawn, thousands of ships covered the horizon, and the fate of Europe had changed forever. When Berlin woke, Garbo calmly reported that the landings were real, but that they were merely a diversion. The main assault, he insisted, would come soon at Calais. Hitler believed him. Even as Allied forces poured through Normandy, he refused to move his troops. Entire divisions sat idle in Calais for weeks, waiting for an invasion that would never come. That delay gave the Allies time to dig in, expand their front, and push Germany back toward defeat. Garbo's lie had become the single greatest act of psychological warfare in modern history. After the war, both sides honored him. The Germans, unaware of his betrayal, awarded him the Iron Cross. The British, fully aware, awarded him the Order of the British Empire. The same man received medals from both Hitler and King George VI. It had never happened before and would never happen again, but Garbo didn't bask in glory. He feared vengeance from the remnants of the Nazi network, so he faked his death, staged malaria in Angola, and vanished. For decades, the world believed the greatest spy in history had died in the late 1940s. Then, in the 1980s, a writer named Nigel West began digging through archives, obsessed with the legend of Garbo. He called hundreds of phone numbers from a Barcelona directory, every Juan Garcia he could find, until one voice finally said, "You're looking for my uncle." Garbo was alive, living quietly in Venezuela. After 40 years in hiding, he agreed to return to Europe. When he stepped onto the beaches of Normandy, the same sands where countless soldiers had died because of his lies, and for his lies, he fell silent. He stared at the sea for a long time, the wind pressing against his coat, the ghosts of D-Day whispering around him. He had never seen the battle he helped shape. He had never met the men who lived or died because he deceived their enemies. But as he stood there, tears filled his eyes. For the first time, the full weight of his choices, his lies, his brilliance, and his humanity collided. History would remember generals, presidents, and victories. But in that quiet moment, standing on a beach shaped by his imagination, Juan Puyol Garcia understood something few men ever could, that truth and falsehood are not opposites in war. They are tools. And sometimes, the sharpest truth is forged from the purest lie. He died years later, far from the spotlight, far from politics and medals. But his shadow remains in every intelligence agency, every disinformation campaign, every psychological operation, because once, in the darkest chapter of human history, one man with a typewriter and an unbreakable will bend the truth so perfectly that it broke an empire. Juan Puyol Garcia, the spy who lied his way into history, remains proof that even in war, imagination can be more powerful than any weapon ever made. So that is how one man defeated an army with only his imagination. Now, I want to know what you think. Tell me which of his fictional agents was your favorite. Explain if you believe a lie can ever be more powerful than the truth. Share your own thoughts down below. Let me know in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories.